Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. This video is a long time coming, and if you're new here, you may not know this. We've been in the same studio space since around about 2018 when we started the channel. Now, we've always wanted to upgrade and go bigger, you know, YouTube things, but the main issue has always been time. We could never find the right place. Trust me, we've looked, and things like the pandemic and property prices in Sydney are crazy. So it's never really been an option. That was until I got this really interesting phone call back in August 2023, and it went a little something like this. Oh, this guy. Hello.
Hey, Nicholas. I'm your dumb and useless real estate agent. The owner wants to sell the apartment. What do you think about that?
What do you mean, what do I think about that?
Well, what do you think?
Well, I think that I really don't want them to sell the place right now, and I don't want to move. What do you think? This guy's an idiot. My instant thought was, why didn't we just try and buy the apartment? We've been in here since the building was new. We know everything about it, but was now the right time? I had an ace up my sleeve though. Guess what, guys? My dad's a real estate agent. He's been a real estate agent for 40 years. Some would call him a master negotiator or a master debater. The next question is, was this dumb idiot real estate agent about to make the easiest commission of his life, or were you about to buy a Windows 11 key from today's video sponsor?
This video is brought to you by VIPSTDKey.com. Have you ever installed Windows 11 only to see the watermark of death? You don't need to fork out a couple of $100s for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor, from VIPSTDKey.com for 1/10 of the price. You can use our code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. How good is that? That takes that already cheap Windows 11 key and makes it even cheaper. It's easy as placing your order. Bingo bango. You've got your new key on your orders page. You chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. Use code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. Link in the description. On with the video, back to you, Nick.
Fast forward a few months, and after a lot of paperwork and Claire and I being a couple $100,000 poorer, we now own this place. We're no longer renting, we're homeowners. Crazy, right? Now we can do stuff like this whenever we want. Which takes us to late November 2023, after the dust had settled from all the house stuff. We could finally start planning stuff. I could drill holes into the walls. I could paint whatever I wanted. I could basically do whatever I wanted within reason, because the studio is actually a lot smaller than it looks in videos anyway. Besides that, the new year was on its way, and January is typically our quietest month. There's almost nothing happening except CES, and we don't go to CES. So there was a lot of planning to do, a lot of building to do, and we did everything in a couple phases. We knew that we were tired of the studio being white, but to test a new look, we wanted to paint a corner of the wall black. For this, we used Taubmans Trade X matte black paint. Apparently, this is better than a lot of the other matte black paints because it doesn't leave oily residue from your fingers and it's easier to clean. It goes for around 90 Aussie dollars for about 4 litres. I'm not a painting expert, so please don't hate on the technique. The thing is, even if we didn't end up making the whole studio black, we still wanted to paint this corner black. Something we weren't expecting was for that corner to be so hard to paint because of the textured wall. This took a lot longer than we thought it was going to take, so thanks to Claire for being a trooper and sticking with it and getting into all the nitty-gritty bits. This was a bit of a test, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do with the studio space. Painting that back corner kind of kicked off this obsession for me. I was looking at lots of different types of studio spaces and like all these videos for inspiration, but at the same time, we wanted to keep some of what we already had for the sake of practicality because it already worked. What I did know though was half of the shelves needed to go, and now that I could drill into the walls, the shelves that we were keeping needed to be attached to the walls properly. The next thing was figuring out where all of that stuff was going to go. There was a lot of stuff, and actually there is a lot of stuff. It doesn't look like it when it's on the shelf, but when it's off the shelf, it's pretty overwhelming. FBI, open up! Luckily, we've got another space in the house where we can fit most of it, and I say that lightly. One thing that's always freaked me out with these shelves is they're freestanding, well, they were freestanding, and they could topple over at any second. And the only thing holding it all together was the weight of all the boxes themselves. But, you know, this video is about changing things, so have a fix of that. I decided to get some wood and cut it to size and put it on the wall by drilling into the bricks and mounting it properly. I decided to do wood instead of the shelves straight into the wall because there's a section of the shelves that don't have wall behind them, and this is the most obvious way to reinforce all of it. I wanted to do this before anything else because I didn't want there to be an accident with the shelves coming down if we were moving stuff around. I know it hasn't fallen over yet, but you know, anything could happen. I don't think I took any photos or video of this mounted properly, but you can see now, even if I wanted to, I'd probably break the shelves before it came off the wall. But that wasn't the only thing. After doing this and putting the mounting on the wall, I really wanted to have a pegboard. So we did that. What I did was I got the Asus ROG pegboard from IKEA and flipped it over because it doesn't have the logos on it, and I mounted that up to the wall. But after we mounted the pegboard, it changed everything. You'll see what I mean. You know when you plan something and in your head it's the final version or whatever it is you're working on, but it never goes to plan? Well, that's kind of what happened with this in the form of a side quest. After I mounted the pegboard, I knew that I hated the white wall behind it. As soon as it came on, it came back off and we painted the wall mat black. It took so long to do this, but with the magic of months of time passing and video editing, you get to see it finished. But you can thank Claire for being so patient with, once again, like the corner, getting in, doing all the little nitty gritty bits. I don't know how she had the patience for it, but she did it. Like that thing was insanely hard to paint. Poor Claire, little makeup brushes getting into all the dots and stuff. It's ridiculous, dude. Like it's crazy.
Obviously, all of the pegboard stuff needed to be black too. I got to painting all of the hooks in matte black. We set up this little ghetto paint booth to do it, and it worked really well. Next came all of the little stuff like new drawers for all of Nick's screws, connectors, and soldering bits. He's got a lot of random crap that he uses for tinkering, and obviously the GS logo that Intel made us a few years ago had to be mounted somewhere too, right?
This looks like the perfect place for it. I hung that up with some black wire so it looked like it was kind of floating. But one of the other things that really annoyed me was the fact that this was always open. Well, you could see through it all the time. And anytime Claire was doing something in the kitchen or anything was happening in the kitchen, you could see straight through, and it doesn't really make for a good filming environment. So we frosted that glass there to make it not transparent. And now we can put big lights behind it and use it as a giant softbox. So it's got multiple uses, and the matte side of it is on this side, so it's not reflective either. Something that's always annoyed me about this space is that it's really small. There's nothing we can do about that, but having light stands and C-stands all over the floor all the time while moving cameras and computers is easily the most infuriating thing in existence. It is the bane of my existence. I hate it, but I had a solution. We already use tension poles on the roof for a lot of stuff, but moving lights that are up there all the time, it's a pain in the ass. And that's where these wall-mounted light boom arms come into it. We can just move these around. These are really, really cool, and I basically just dynabolted them straight into the wall over there. But the first place I saw this was pretty interesting. Marty from Mighty Car Mods showed me around the original Mighty Car Mods workshop, and he had these all over the place. And I said, I'm like, dude, that's such a good idea. So now we just have these light booms because I fucking hate C-stands. They get in the way. Like I'd be doing something dumb like, hey, I'm building a PC and I'm moving a case or like some parts, and I'd trip over and lights would fall over, or Claire would be doing something and she'd trip over a light stand, or, you know, C-stands suck. You don't need them if you're in your own house, guys. That's the solution. Look at this shit. I mean, I'm not that tall, but look, it's so good. Yay. Here's the thing though, this is just scratching the surface of what was to come next. All the while we'd been working on a collab with a company, and we'd been working with them to change the walls in the studio. You guys have already seen it, but before that could happen, we'd have to prep the walls, we had to install battens, and I had to do them in a way that you couldn't see them as we were filming videos because I didn't want you guys to notice that anything had changed in here. I think the video we did at the start of the year with the FSP cut, that was probably the last video before something was noticeable. In the next video about the Landcool 216R, that's probably the first time you could see something was happening. And then we did like a Cooler Master keyboard video where I knew that people could probably notice that something was happening. And then the next video, the shear was like this. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff happening all at once, but we couldn't reveal it to you guys because we didn't want to just.
Something.
I'm trying to make you feel weird.
Look how gross you are.
Oh,
Look at your arm.
So bad. Don't drill into bricks, it's the worst. Well, these are like, this is like concrete though. It's so bad. But look, this is what we're doing. We're putting up the battens to attach the new wall stuff. And yeah, only one minor mishap with the second one. The first one went pretty smooth, but look at me, I'm covered. Look, I'm trying to be Michael Jackson right now. Oh, that is gross. I'm not gonna clean it off until I'm like, I saw something cool in some videos and people were doing it in their kitchens and people were putting this bias lighting on the top edge of walls. I thought doing something like this would be great for house lighting, and that's basically like when we're not filming to make the space feel a bit airier even though the inevitable darkness was about to happen. I used some COB LED strips that I soldered up and I made some custom wiring that is hooked up to a smart power socket that turns on with the voice command or this little flick button thing that we've been using for years. Lastly, I used some adhesive acoustic felt panels to stick to the wall, and I put this along the bottom edge of the wall to kind of work as skirting and to make the whole wall black. Now, I've got some plans to change this over the next few months because you're never really done with this stuff, right? Back to the collab. Long story short, there's this PR agency in the US that didn't reply to emails. It took them 3 months to try and do anything, 20 days between correspondence, and I was basically not being able to make videos because they were wasting my time. So I sent them an email telling them to go and get absolutely.
I got my Magnum condoms, I got my Water hundreds, I'm ready to plow.
And I ended up spending money with the same company anyway, obviously not the PR agency, but we bought everything that we needed anyway, so we didn't really need them at the end of the day. And that's how it is sometimes. Life do be like that. But on with the show, I suppose, right? You want to see how it all comes together? The panels were easy to install. Just a couple screws through the felt section of the panels, and we screw those straight into the battens and rinse and repeat. If I had to do this again though, I would put in a center batten, and basically the reason why I didn't do this initially was I didn't want to have it in videos and I didn't want to show it before it was finished because it just didn't make sense. It worked out in the end that we ended up putting in center battens and supports after the fact, and then I put these additional battens in the corners later after the fact as well. So it's all stuff that I didn't film. This happens. I just want to get some jobs done. After installing the panels, I noticed that it looked a bit dim on this edge here. So we decided to add some additional edge lighting. There's a little inline switch here that turns it on. And I made it independent for a couple reasons. First of all, COB LED strips over 5 meters from my testing, as soon as it hits the 5 meter mark, it just goes dim and you could probably inject more power in line, but it didn't make sense. And I didn't want it to be a continuous strip all the way down because this doesn't always need to be on, but it is nice when we film some things. I've also got some diffusers that I'm gonna add to it to spread the light out a bit because it does look a bit sharp. But the great thing about these panels is now that we've done the battens and they're kind of acoustically treated panels as they are, there's an air gap behind the panel. That makes the acoustics a lot better in the space. However, there's quite a bit of resonance and you can't hear the resonance now because that's where that comes in. I know it doesn't look like much, but this makes a huge difference. I made this 120 centimeter by 60 centimeter acoustic cloud. I made a relatively shallow frame of about 70 millimeters. I put a solid melamine back on it. I got some old pillows and I pulled all the stuffing out. I then heaped them together on 2 ends, creating kind of a wave pattern. I covered it with some old fabric and then I attached some spare acoustic panels to the top, which followed that wave pattern. It's not pretty, but it cost me about 20 bucks and about an hour of time to make and change the sound in the studio dramatically. I also wanted to suspend this from the roof, But the main issue is I spoke to our building manager about it and he was like, it's kind of possible. You'll need to get approval for it because inside this slab just above us, there's a bunch of water pipes and a bunch of gas pipes. He showed me all the plans. He's like, you can do it, but better to just avoid it. So what I've done here is I've added additional bits of wood from the edge of the panels to sit on the tension rods that we've got up there. So it still has the air gap behind the panel, which is exactly what we needed. And we've had comments from you guys as well saying the sound is much better since we've done everything, but you probably didn't know why. And that's the real reason why everything sounds better. Yeah, the panels are good, but that stops a lot of that resonance in here. And I like it. And it was pretty easy to build, like 20 bucks. I mean, I did have pillows and all this other random crap to fill it with, but if you were gonna be making something like this, I would say 40 Aussie dollars and you could get away with doing something. So not a big investment. I've got acoustic clouds in my office, which we'll talk about another time, that are like $500 each. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to see that. However, for our next edition, it was going to be a lot harder to overcome this because, like I said, we can't drill into the roof. This one is a little bit harder to explain. Basically, the whole idea for this renovation or revamp or whatever you want to call it was we wanted to be able to film in the studio from any angle. How would we do this? We really wanted to mount a curtain rail on the roof. The way we did this is I used little strips of wood and I ended up liquid nailing that to the roof. And the main reason why we wanted this, check this out guys, we wanted to be able to film from every angle of the studio and it not be a problem. And also so Claire can have a bit of privacy and it blocks out enough so you don't see what she's doing. Yeah, it's not the smoothest thing in the world, but it is super convenient. And like when I give it a bit more slack, these gaps fill in nicely and we get that nice airy diffused look if we shoot this way. We've done it a couple times in videos already, you may or may not have noticed. We've done it in this video at least once, but the other nice thing is we can use it for transition shots. Check this out. I've done it in one of the builds, right? Where I had a setup over here and then I had the camera behind through the gap. Hey, you know, so I can put the camera through the curtain and do all the cool fancy movements like it's Hollywood dog. Intergalactic planetary. Don't copyright strike me. Don't copyright strike me. He's so used to being a regular camera guy on like TV and stuff that he would just see things and just try and hold the laughter in, but you don't have to here, bro. Another thing that you may or may not care about is when you have a studio kind of like ours, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but everything needs to be practical. Everything needs a place. So for all of our bar lights and weird stands and monopods and tripods, we've got this little storage area. The way that I made this was, I don't know where I saw it, but I think it was like some random DIY garage video, some guy putting his brooms up on broom holders on the wall. I got some broom holders, well, I got one. Over the last week or so, I've just been getting annoyed with these bar lights and had nowhere to charge them. So I went back to Bunnings to buy another one of these and they don't make them anymore. So I made my own. The way I did this was these little clips that hold everything, you can buy them individually. Then I got this aluminium, not aluminum sail track. And then I made it with that and I drilled it in. And then Bob's your dad's cousins, brothers, uncles, auntie. I have really awesome storage for my long poles. Just this past weekend, I redid this whole camera closet. Basically, everything that we've got here is super duper organized. We've got so many cameras as well, and we need everything to just live in its own place. And if you're into YouTube and you do videos kind of like we do, maybe you'll find some interesting little tips and whatnot from the way that we've got our setup. There's lots of different things. It's a bit overwhelming to look at, but everything has a place. Each cable bin has a label. So you've got like HDMI and DisplayPort chargers, other USB, batteries, big MPF, which is these big chunky batteries we use for sliders and other stuff. Small MPF is what we use in some of the Blackmagic cameras. Canon, we have for the older Blackmagics, there's like a mic bin. You can see this, there's a LUMIX S bin, which is what we're shooting on now. Lots of LUMIX batteries. These are kind of hard to find, but now they're not. Everything's labeled, and then all the chargers are labeled too. So we've got the LUMIX S charger, we've got 4 of them. We've got a lot of Sony MPF chargers because the Blackmagics absolutely suck power. So sometimes I'll also be sucking power.
What did he say?
And charge 8 batteries at once. Dylan, how many batteries did I tell you we're taking a Computex for the Blackmagic? 10?
10 or 12?
Yeah, it's only gonna last a day. We'll go through 10 batteries in a day, easily. Other stuff for camera rigging down the bottom, got like lots of cages for all our cameras and all that other random crap. This isn't all of our cameras, this is just what we're not using right now. Like, say for instance, if I wanted to grab another camera, look, I've got another S5 II, and there's like Blackmagics everywhere, but yeah. Basically, we've got like some Blackmagic Pocket Cine 4Ks. We haven't used them in a year. We're gonna get rid of them. We've basically now switched over completely to the S5 IIX and our bigger Blackmagics with bigger sensors. And we have, oh, I gotta redact this bit. Yeah, that's the new camera that we've got coming, yeah. We've got all of the different filters and stuff that we use for videos that we never talk about because it's kind of Gear Seeker's secret sauce. I have them labeled so I know what they are. You could probably read them now. They've given away all the secrets. Adapter rings, just all the crazy camera stuff you could ever possibly want, and places to charge it. But the most important thing is get yourself a label maker. This will save you so much time. And I found on Amazon you can buy the knockoff ones. Dude, it was like $5 for 5 of these, and they're usually like 10 or 15 bucks each. I'm paying that. This is Headphone Alley, all the different headphones. These ones, it goes from worst to best. So we've had these the longest, these are okay, and then my good Sony ones are traveling up here. The other side, we've got DMX and XLR cables because X gon' give it to you. And some gloves. You don't want to know why I've got the gloves.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. And there's lenses and all that stuff up there too. Look, a lot of lenses. We don't use half of them anymore. All the Micro Four Thirds stuff, I think we're gonna get rid of it now. So I've never really shown this stuff because there's never been a reason to. I've got this iPad here I use to control Spotify and some of the lighting. All the lighting remotes have magnets on them, so they're sitting on there. All of our lens caps are magnetic. So, you know, lens caps are all, we just stick it to places. And we've got Employee of the Month. Most important person in everyone's life here is that little munchkin. We've got 10 gig Ethernet through the whole house. I've got this Ubiquiti switch that's just for the studio. That's been here for a while. I kind of wall mounted that. But one problem I was having was every time I moved the table, the switch would come off its wall mount and I'd just get pissed off because I'm like, that's not really cool. So I wall mounted this little 10-inch patch panel. This is Cat 6A, and essentially I've got 12 ports available. If I decide to upgrade the ports or the switch or anything at a later point in time, these are just keystones as well, so I can upgrade this however I like. But having this wall mounted is good because now when I move the table and roll it around, I don't have the problem of ripping cables out of the switch and damaging stuff. Oh, strong man. When I'm not filming, I do a lot of my admin work in here with Claire as well. At the moment, we're organizing all the travel and Computex and stuff, and it's easier for me to just sit next to Claire like we're in a normal office. So I push this desk all the way that way, but the issue is when I want to film stuff and talk to camera and I still want to use this computer in videos, it stays here and the desk is over there. So I have this little IKEA trolley thing. I've talked about these a million times in videos. The PC's there, and now I've zip tied the whole thing, right? So that usually the computer would be over there, right? But like now it comes with it. There's a lot of random little crap that you would just never see unless I talk to you about it. I guess that's life, right? Like you only see a small portion of anyone's life at any one time. I guess I probably should have shown you what the pegboard was being used for. All of the random tools and stuff I use for tinkering, little clamps. Marty once gave this to Claire and said, when you buy your place, make sure you use this in the bin to measure everything. And shout out to Marty because that's the measuring tape we use to measure everything. Random mallets, I have to have that up there because Bindi loves to rub in it and slobber all over it. It's so weird, man. And we've got this Echo Studio that we use for pumping music when we're filming. I've got this here, which is cool. You'll probably see the effects of this somehow in the video, but this I use as a tablet for all the lighting control in the studio. But we have a DMX control panel here for the lighting in the studio too. So does that come through at all? Yeah, we can control all the backlighting in the classic Gear Seekers way. This is how we've always done it. We've had a hidden DMX controller that lights up the wall, and we've got floor lighting that you'd find in a nightclub, and it's the easiest way to do it. Look guys, I know that it doesn't look like we did a lot here, but everything we did was for a reason, and because we own the place now, there was a lot of things we could optimize, and it just feels so nice. We have space now, which is something we never really had. This space is tiny as it is. It looks a lot bigger than it is on video, but it is very, very small. And I'm sure there's lots of stuff that I forgot to talk about in this video, but everything that was mentioned in this video will have a link in the description, so like Bunnings, wherever we got all the stuff. The other thing is, I don't know how much all of this has cost us. I don't know what this number is gonna be. And I don't know if it's a little bit or a lot of money, but we've spent so much time doing all of it. It could be anything at this point. So yeah, if it's a lot of money, I'm sorry to myself. If it's not as much as I think, then I'm proud of myself. But yeah, here's the total here for everything. So, you know, it may not look like a lot, but it means a lot to us, and it's changed everything for us. And we have to thank you guys for it, because without this YouTube channel, this ridiculous dream of being able to work from home every day, have Dylan here filming us like a proper professional, it's crazy. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Like, you've made our dreams come true. That's not the end of it though, because I had some spare panels and I started playing around with them in my office, and to be honest, I really liked how they looked. The thing was, if I decided to go down the path of putting these panels in my office, I'm not just gonna whack them on the wall. I wanted to make my office brand new with a whole new layout, with basically matching the aesthetic of the studio. But as all good things go on the internet, ladies and gents, that's the story for another video. We'll use the technology because we have it. Look, Dylan is doing the thing. Look at that. What a good looking bloke, eh? I like his tattoos too. What do you reckon, Dill? Good. It's good. It's good, mate. Abysses. Look at the abysses. Poor Dylan having to put up with me. It's an abyss. It's an abyss. We call those a f***ing bin chicken. That was the best low budget thing I've ever seen.
Scripts. Scripts. And cats. Scripts and cats.
I love it.
Backlighting is crazy.
Yeah, does it? Does it look good?
I'm recording right now, aren't I? You fucking...
Yeah.